Right, good evening, everyone. My name's Mitesh, and I'm from Success at School, and I'm going to be your host for the evening. You're participating in this webinar because you're interested in learning about NAO's early career offering. And I'm going to keep this brief, but tonight you're going to hear from NAO, the UK's independent public spending watchdog, basically the guys that make sure your tax money is being spent properly. From the NAO, we have Zoe, the resourcing team, a couple of NAO apprentices, Leo and Megan, and finally Gemma, who is a qualified chartered accountant who is an audit manager. Before I turn the discussion over to Zoe, I would like to make one small request. If you have any questions during the presentation, please submit them in the chat and we will address them during the Q&A session at the end of the webinar. We're expecting a large number of attendees, so we'll do our best to answer as many questions as possible. And before I hand over to Zoe, just so you know, this webinar is being recorded. So if you want to watch it again tomorrow or the day after to recap over the application process or what the NAO do, then we're going to upload it to our YouTube channel tomorrow. Zoe, I'm going to hand over to you and let you guys get started.
Lovely, great. Thank you very much, Mitesh. Good evening, everybody. So by way of introduction, my name is Zoe Galling. I'm the Graduate and Apprentice Resourcing Specialist at the NAO. And as Mitesh has mentioned, I'm also joined by some of my lovely colleagues who you'll meet a little bit later on. But for now, just to introduce myself so you know exactly who I am. I oversee all elements of the trainee scheme. So that is everything from attraction and marketing right through to onboarding our trainees that join us every year. So I've been with the organisation for just under 3 years. So a lot of the recruitment that I've done since joining has been virtual due to lockdown, which actually brings me very nicely onto this photo. So this is a photo of all of our trainees that joined us in September 2022. And this was actually our first in-person cohort since 2019 due to lockdown. And it was actually so lovely to meet everyone in person and actually see them start to network and start building those relationships from day one. So you'll get to see them a little bit later on, or meet a couple of them later on. So moving on, so who are we? Who are the NAO? So as Mitesh mentioned, we are the UK's independent public spending watchdog. So the role of the NAO is to scrutinise public spending for Parliament and actually help the nation spend wisely. And that is us in a nutshell. We are funded by Parliament and we support members and peers in holding government to account for the way in which public money is spent. And we help improve public services through the high quality audits that we run. So we're all about helping our economy and society work better. So we support and enable improvements in financial management and the way that vital public services are delivered across the public sector to millions of people every day. And that's what we're here to talk to you about today, is the training scheme for the NAO, and that's our accountancy training scheme. So for a trainee, this means that they will get to do work that has a real purpose and will offer them a lot of challenge and variety. And they will contribute to audits and projects that scrutinise government's use of resources. So a lot of the work we do is very big hitting, it often is in the headlines, and in the current economic climate, there is a lot of attention being paid to achieving better value for money for the taxpayer. So what do we do? So this is a couple of news articles that were published recently. So one of the articles was about the hundreds of thousands of people that were affected by the passport processing delays last year. The Passport Office struggled to keep up with demand. So the NAO went in and reviewed, and we've been urging the Home Office agency to prepare for this year because they are expecting up to 10 million applications to be submitted. The second article was published a couple of weeks ago, and this was about security vetting and the unacceptable delays in completion rates since 2021 and how they've been failing to meet their performance targets. So that's just a very quick snapshot of some of the things that you might see in the press and the kind of work that we do. So we are all about auditing central government, and this includes departments such as the Ministry of Defence, Department for Transport, HMRC. We also do agencies such as the Met Office, the DVLA, the Passport Office that I've just mentioned. But we also do non-departmental public bodies as well, such as Ofsted and the British Transport Police and the Environment Agency. So that's just a very, very small selection of some of the government bodies that we audit. So how do we work? So this is Gareth Davies. So Gareth leads the NAO. He is the Comptroller and Auditor General, or CNAG as we call him. And he is an officer of the House of Commons and was appointed by Her Majesty the Queen back in 2019. So Gareth certifies the accounts of all government departments and many other public sector bodies. And he has the statutory authority to examine and report to Parliament on whether departments and the bodies they fund have used their resources efficiently, effectively, and with economy. So we report objectively and independently on what the government does, and we do not advise on policy objectives. And I should note that Gareth and his staff are totally independent of government. So in terms of us as an office, locations, we have 2 offices in the UK. So our main office is in London near Victoria Station, and we have a regional office in Newcastle city centre. And actually our staff in Newcastle will be moving to a brand new office in May of this year. And it's been quite nice to follow sort of the fit out of the office through our internal website and the updates that we see from the office there. So you do have a choice in which location you want to work in if you are to join us. So in terms of the opportunities that we offer, we're here to talk to you about the apprentice scheme or the school leaver scheme. So this is our chartered accountancy qualification, which takes up to 5 years to qualify, and it's a level 4. So this is aimed at school and college leavers. We also offer a graduate scheme, which takes up to 3 years. So if you did decide that you might want to head to university, you've still got the option to join us at a later date. We offer a summer internship. So this is for students at university. They get to spend about 8 weeks over the summer with us, learning about the NAO and getting involved in audits and value for money studies. And we also offer a 1-week work experience placement to Year 13 students. And it's a great way for people to spend a week with us, learning more about the NAO, public sector, the work we do, but also accountancy, with hopefully a view to them joining us as apprentices. We also offer a data science internship, which actually isn't mentioned on this particular slide, but it's a year-long placement aimed at university students who want to go down an analyst route. And that's for students that have studied subjects such as data science, mathematics, statistics. So it's got a very quantitative component to it. Now, I've popped the QR code on this slide, and we will share this with all of you after the presentation. But this QR code takes you directly through to our trainee website, where you can find out a lot more information about the training scheme, the qualification, the entry requirements, as well as the link to apply, because we are actually open for applications now. So we've kind of talked about the ACA, but a lot of people will be thinking, what is it? So the ACA is a qualification prescribed by the Institute of Chartered Accountants in England and Wales, or ICAW, and it stands for the Association of Chartered Accountants. Now, the ACA qualification for our apprentice trainees can take up to 5 years to qualify. And the training and development that we offer our trainees, or actually not just our trainees, are all of our staff, it's the single largest investment that we make in our people. So right from the beginning of your career, you have the opportunity to make an impact. As well as the professional training that you get, the office also provides training courses internally and externally, which will cover a lot of the latest accounting and auditing techniques. For example, you could attend an audit interviewing course where you'll learn how to build effective client relationships, as well as the techniques that you need in order to hold successful client meetings. And later on in your training contract, you could attend courses that will help you develop your skills as a successful line manager. Now, the ACA has great earning potential. After qualifying, you could be promoted to an audit principal. Now, the starting salary at the moment for an audit principal in our London office is around 55,000 and in Newcastle 44,000. So really great earning potential there. So in terms of ACA exams, this just gives you a bit of an overview of the types of exams that you will do and the stages in which you'll do them in. So your training agreement requires you to sit 15 exams in 3 different stages. So your certificate level is done first, followed by your professional a year later, and then your advanced level. So as an apprentice, you'll sit your first 6 ACA exams over 18 months. And alongside that, you'll have 12 reflective statements that form part of the apprenticeship. And this will be things that cover areas such as teamwork and leadership. Now, your first exam is sat usually about a month after you start, but the rest of them are spread out fairly evenly. But you'll complete all of your exams in just over 4 years. Now, it is a 5-year training agreement, and the extra year is really just to give you extra time in case you need to resit an exam. Now, alongside your exams, the ACA requires you to have 450 days of technical work experience, and you will gain that pretty quickly over the 4 to 5 years once you start working on audits and value for money studies. So the training provider that we work with, BPP, have a number of locations dotted all across London. And in Newcastle, our college is right near the train station, so very central and very close to our current office. So I know the thing that you're most interested to hear about is what are the entry requirements for the apprentice scheme. So what we look for is 120 UCAS points from your top 3 A levels. Now, whilst 120 UCAS remains our minimum threshold, there are some circumstances where we may be able to consider applications from students that have 104 to 119 UCAS. And what we do is we work with a company called Rare Recruitment, and we use what they call a contextual recruitment system that allows us to assess your academic achievements in the context of your personal circumstances. So if this does apply to you, then please contact us and we'll be very happy to have a chat with you and tell you what you need to do in order to move forward. So other requirements that you need is no university degree. So this is for school leavers. If you have a university degree, you want to be going down the graduate route. You should not be on a current training contract with another accountancy firm or be part qualified. This program is all about starting people off from the very beginning. And secondly, we do have to follow civil service nationality rules. So it does mean that anyone applying to the program must have the right to live and work in the UK without any restrictions. But again, if you have any questions at all, you can contact our team at our HR service desk. So I've added this slide in because I want to talk a little bit more about the NAO and our commitment to making our organisation a more diverse and inclusive organisation. And that's an integral part of who we are, and it also reflects our core values. So our diversity and inclusion strategy focuses on building a robust pipeline of diverse talent and a culture of fairness and inclusion. And we actually have our strategy listed on our NAO website. So if you are interested at all in reading more about it, please do go and have a look. Now, we constantly monitor our diversity figures within the organisation and through our recruitment process as well. And we do get involved in a lot of activities to promote diversity accordingly. And we're really proud that our commitment and our achievements to creating a diverse and inclusive working environment have been recognised by these partners that we work with. Now, kind of moving on more about accountancy, there are a lot of myths out there, and I'll be very honest, I probably was one of those people that believed some of the things that were kind of associated with accountancy. So the first myth that I seem to get quite a lot when I'm at careers fairs and doing presentations is that people feel that accounting is someone sitting in front of a computer just popping numbers into a spreadsheet, and you could not be more wrong. The work that we do is very diverse. Yes, we are the National Audit Office, so we do internal and external audits, but we also do a range of other work. And this is just, again, a bit of a summary of what we do. So just picking a few out there, we do plan the allocation of budgets, we can investigate criminal financial activity, we can negotiate finance for organisations. So very, very varied work that you get involved in. The second myth that seems to come up quite a lot as well is that people feel employment options can be quite limited for accountants. And again, could not be more wrong. The NAO provides a lot of relevant work experience. So as a trainee, you will easily accrue the 450 days of work experience you need to get membership to the ICAW. We audit around 400 accounts every year, and our clients range from major government departments such as the Ministry of Defence, the Department of Work and Pension, through to public bodies as well. We also have a number of international clients, and we provide support to audit institutions. And trainees will have the opportunity to help deliver our financial audit work, as well as working on high-profile value for money studies as well. And the trainee role is mobile. So you will get to travel around the UK, meet lots of people, work on site with your clients, and you may even have the opportunity to work overseas as well. I think the final myth, and the one that I hear probably the most often, is that people feel that we are only looking for maths geniuses, people that enjoy maths, people that are really good at maths. And again, you could not be more wrong. We look for trainees with a wide range of different skills. So all of the trainees that we have now come from a range of backgrounds, and they have studied the full spectrum of subjects from arts, social sciences, music, everything, not just maths. The work we do benefits from the different perspectives that people from different backgrounds can bring. So there is no standard NAO trainee. What we are looking for is people with a genuine motivation to join the NAO, the public sector, and work for the good of the taxpayer. We're looking for team players. Everything we do is about teamwork. And yes, we're looking for analytical skills as well, but also people that are adaptable and ready to take on challenges. So this is just a snapshot of our competencies that we actually assess people against. And you can find these on our website along with a definition of what each of those competencies means. So this is the bit that I think most people are probably interested in, is what are the benefits of the trainee scheme? So we provide you with a really competitive salary. So as of 2022 salary, we start our London trainees apprentices off on 25,436. And for anyone wanting to work in the Newcastle office, just over 19,700. So very competitive salary. The qualification is fully funded by the NAO, including your membership subscriptions to the ICAW. You get 25 weeks of paid study leave. So this is a great opportunity to earn while you learn. But as well as that, you'll get annual pay increases, and you get special increases when you pass key stages of your qualification. So the 3 stages that you would have seen on the earlier slide. So certificate level, professional level, and advanced level. We have the excellent civil service pension scheme, which all of our trainees are enrolled into, and you get 35 days of annual leave, which includes bank holidays. And as well as that, there is an excellent system of support from NAO colleagues all the way through. You have your line manager who is there to oversee your work and your development. You have a buddy, so this is a more experienced trainee who is there to help you get settled into the office, and they're on hand to answer any questions you have during your first few months. Alongside that, you also have what we call a counselling member. So this is an audit manager, and it's someone that you meet with every 6 months to talk through the work that you've done, talk about the future, and they're there to help you sort of gain experience in any areas that you want to work in. Now, the majority of our audit staff join the NAO through the training scheme, so they have lots of support and guidance to offer because they know what it's like to be a trainee. And not only that, you're joining with an intake of around 70 to 80 other trainees. So it's large enough for you to make friends and develop that strong support network, but not so big that you won't have the opportunity to get to know everyone. And alongside that, the office has a wide variety of sports teams, clubs, and staff networks that you can join, as well as a number of office-wide social events that are held every single year. So you've got that excellent support network, really great work-life balance, alongside the other benefits that you get from joining us. So if hearing all of that, you're interested in applying, this is what the recruitment process looks like. So it's actually 4 stages. So the first stage is to register on the website. And if you meet the minimum criteria, we'll ask you to complete what we call an NRT. That's a numerical reasoning test. Now, you do not need to be a mathematician to do this, but the test has been designed to show how you work with data and how you would make decisions using the kind of numerical information you might come across when working at the NAO. Now, there are practice tests as well, and you can complete these before the actual test itself. So it gives you an idea on the type of questions that will be asked, but it's a great way to prepare, and also it helps you perform to the best of your ability. If you pass that successfully, we'll ask you to go back to the application and complete what we call competency-based questions. Now, these questions are assessed against our competencies, and what we are looking for are very specific examples of when you have demonstrated them. We have a lot of hints and tips on our website, and we do encourage you to read those because, again, it will really help you prepare for that stage of the process. The third stage is a telephone interview, and the final stage, if you pass through that, is an assessment centre. So the assessment centres are run virtually, but we are also offering in person if people are interested in attending in person. So you get to come to the London office and take part. But the assessment centre itself is from about 10 o'clock through to about 3:30 in the afternoon, and you take part in a group exercise as well as a couple of individual exercises. But we actually give you some advice and guidance in advance of attending, so you know what to expect, the kind of exercises you'll be doing, and it gives you a chance to ask us any questions if you're a little bit unsure about how the day might pan out. And following on from that, hopefully we make offers. So on that note, what I'm now going to do is stop talking and I'm going to hand over to Leo and Megan, who are two of our apprentices. So they'll just tell you a little bit more about sort of their journey, so from what they did at school, college, and joining the NAO. So Leo, I'll pop myself on mute and I'll hand over to you.
Right, cool. Hi everyone. I'm Leo. I joined the NAO in August 2021. So I've been here for a year and a half now, I think. I did my A-levels in maths, economics, and law. And for me, doing those subjects, I think complements what I do at the NAO, but it's completely fine if you've done, geography or psychology or any other different A-levels. I was very unsure of what career path that I wanted to choose when I was younger. It ranged from like medicine to law to finance to economics. So it was very like I had so many options, but my mind was all over the place of what I really wanted to do. So since being at the NAO, I've worked on value for money studies and financial audit work as well. So I think most people know about the financial audit work, but I'm not sure if a lot of you will know about the value for money aspect of the NAO. So I think that's what really makes the NAO unique. Not only do we hold government to account and scrutinise government spending for Parliament, we also scrutinise and give a judgment on government policies and seeing whether they achieve effectiveness and essentially value for money. And that kind of leads me on to the last bullet point there. At the NAO, if you want to be just following the normal financial audit route, you can do that. But if you want to have a mix of value for money studies and financial audit as well, you can incorporate that into your training. And once you've fully qualified, I believe it's after 2 years of qualifying, you can apply to have a mixed portfolio of doing VFM work and doing financial audit work as well. But that is still a long way to go. So yeah, I'll hand over to Megan.
Thank you, Leo. Hi, everyone. So just like Leo, I also studied economics at A-level, but I also studied geography and psychology, which I know many of you are thinking very different subjects. And yeah, I do realise that. But I was always really interested in how the psychology of a person's brain, in a sense, impacted their economic decisions. So why people want to buy a certain thing and their reasoning behind the decision that they've made. So that sort of led me into the route of, I quite like finance. We'll see where that leads me. So I actually started at the NAO in September of 2022. So I've only been here 6 months, so I haven't quite got as much experience as Leo. But very differently to Leo, I don't actually work in financial audit or VFM, so value for money. I'm in the internal finance department for the following 1.5 to 2 years before I move over to financial audit. So I was one of 2 lucky apprentices that got to do that. And I just felt that's a key thing I want to mention because I think it gives you a bit more of a well-rounded view of the entire finance sector, so to speak. So I'll definitely field any questions on that one for you. But yeah, I think that was amazing, and I'm lucky enough to choose where I want to go for financial audit soon. Thank you.
Great, thanks very much, Leo, Megan. And now I'm going to hand over to my colleague Gemma, so she'll give you a bit of an overview of her career. Thank you, Gemma.
Hi everyone, hope you can hear me okay. My name's Gemma Taylor and I'm an audit manager at the National Audit Office. I'm going to start a bit with my journey and how I got to where I am today. So you can see on my sort of timeline that I've put up for you that I attended state schools, and after my GCSEs I studied a mixture of A-level subjects that I was interested in, which was psychology, chemistry and philosophy and world religion. And while studying for my A-levels, it really wasn't clear to me what career path I wanted to take. So that's what led me to simply apply for a degree that I found interesting, which was psychology. And when I missed one of my grades at A-level, I ended up going through clearing, and I went to Coventry University. However, I wasn't advised at school about apprenticeships and thought university was my only option at the time, which is why I ended up going down the route I went down. So first off, I'm really impressed with everyone who's attended this evening to find out more, because it's a really great step you're taking there to find out more information. After university, I still didn't really know what I wanted to do, and that meant I didn't come across that passion in graduate interviews. I ended up accepting a job which I didn't need a degree for, as an office junior in a private probate company. But I worked my way up to office manager there and found it really interesting. I traced beneficiaries and distributed estate assets, because probate is something that you get for somebody when somebody dies. So a bit morbid, but it was a really interesting experience. But after some time, I realised my career potential there was quite limited, financially as well as progression. I'd sort of reached the maximum of what I was going to do. So I started looking into gaining a professional qualification to improve my earning capability alongside working in the public sector, which is where I came across the NAO accountancy schemes. So I applied and I trained with the NAO for 3 years through the graduate route, became an ACA chartered accountant and was promoted to audit principal. And then 3 years on from that, I applied for and got promoted to audit manager, which is what I do today. Throughout my time at the NAO, I've worked in lots of interesting teams. When I joined, I was part of the Parliament team and I got to audit MPs' expenses and walk through the Houses of Parliament regularly as part of my daily trip. I had a secret access pass, that there was a secret door in the tube, so that was really exciting. And I also worked on some VFM. So I worked on a police accountability study and got the opportunity as part of that to interview several chief constables and police and crime commissioners as part of that work. And that was really rewarding, as even as a trainee, my name is included in the publication, and we really brought to light some of the difficulties in the new system that have been implemented in that sector. I now work in the health team, which, as you might imagine, is pretty fascinating at the moment. And as well as auditing the accounts of the Department of Health and Social Care, we've worked on studies about the response to the pandemic, including test and trace and PPE, which I'm sure you've probably seen all over the news. So, why might you want to work in the public sector? Our unique position means we can focus on big, systemic, cross-government, cross-cutting issues to bring about significant change. And unlike the private sector, we have access to scrutinise government spending, improve financial management, and help Parliament and government drive lasting improvement in public services. And this level of access is one of the reasons why you might want to work in the public sector, because you really get the opportunity to see a lot of the inner workings of Parliament and government, and the opportunity to influence key stakeholders. And the value for money work we do that Leo was mentioning really drills down into how taxpayers' funds have been spent and allows Parliament to question government on their decision making through something called the Public Accounts Committee. And my job satisfaction doesn't just come from the excellent benefits Zoe mentioned, like getting a good salary, my civil service pension, and a great annual leave allowance. And also, once you've worked at the NAO for 5 years, your leave goes up to 40 days. So hard to ever leave because you get so much leave. But also on the wider impact I have in my day-to-day job, and I feel like I'm really making a difference. And as Zoe mentioned, at the NAO, you study for the ACA qualification. And when I applied for my job, I didn't actually know there was more than one. And I was really fortunate, because actually the ACA is incredibly prestigious. And once I qualified, my career opportunities massively expanded to what I'd experienced before. And I was, and still am, approached regularly by recruiters, My LinkedIn inbox is full of people asking me to go for interviews, and the jobs on offer are incredibly diverse, so you aren't pigeonholed into just audit, which is what you've trained in. And alongside my normal job at the NAO as well, there's plenty of other opportunities. So I also run a volunteering scheme for colleagues where they mentor a local sixth form student, and you can get involved in that as well as a trainee at the NAO. And I just wanted to flag a couple of things before I pass over for Q&A. But as you've heard, I sort of studied completely unrelated subjects and had no accountancy experience before applying to the NAO. So just what I want to get across to you is that these aren't barriers for you getting into the career that you want. I was at no disadvantage joining the NAO with my background and was taught everything I needed to know from scratch. Also, the myth of needing to be amazing at maths, that is definitely not true. I did well in GCSE maths, so I took A-level and I failed my first exam and I dropped the subject. So you really cannot take that as an indicator that you won't perform well in your job. I managed to pass my ACA exams first time, and I'm definitely not a high flyer, but I won't mislead you. I did study really hard to pass them, but it really is totally achievable, so don't doubt yourself. And just to end, I just want to reiterate that having a public sector career can be incredibly rewarding. I've been at the NAO for nearly 12 years, and despite being offered numerous other opportunities in the private sector and going on to comment to a well-known big firm during my time at the NAO, I've chosen to stay working at the NAO as I know I'm making a big difference.
Gemma, thank you very much for that. And thank you to Megan and Leo and Zoe for all the information they gave, and a particular thank you to Megan and Leo for answering all the questions on the chat. We're going to go into Q&A now. We'll probably go over some of the questions that have been answered in the chat, because I know the chat's moving very quickly and everyone might not have had a chance to read it. So I'm going to kick off. I'm going to try and do it chronologically, actually, if I can, with what we have. Zoe, this is probably for you, actually. So there's a few questions around the application process and what grades people need. You probably covered it in the presentation, but it'd be good just to recap.
Yeah.
So what age do you need to be to apply? Gemma covered it. You can probably do any A level, but maybe just be worth recapping on what grades people need. There's a couple of questions on whether BTECs are okay to do instead of A levels.
Mm-hmm.
So we start with those. I've kind of grouped them into a section because they probably will. You can probably cover them off in one answer or one longish answer.
Great, thanks, Mitesh. So just to reiterate again, so we look for 120 UCAS points. So that's from your top 3 A levels, and general studies does not count. So 120 UCAS points is equivalent to 3 Bs. Now, I did actually put in the chat a UCAS calculator, and it's a really useful tool to calculate what your A levels will be, AS levels, but also we do accept BTECs. So you will find on the UCAS calculator, there is a very long drop-down list for the various different BTECs. So if you can find your one, pop it in there, what your grade is, it will actually calculate exactly what the UCAS point equivalent is. Sorry, what was the other question that we had, I think, around requirements? Yeah,
so, I mean, it was about subjects, but I think Gemma covered it, but if you could just say if there's any particular subject requirements or not, then everyone else can.
No subject requirements at all. Again, as we sort of mentioned with the myths and what Gemma mentioned as well, you do not need to have studied maths in order to apply. We honestly see a wide range of subjects come through from the trainees, and I mean literally everything. We had trainees last year that had studied music, fine arts, history, geography, absolutely everything. So honestly, it really doesn't matter what you've studied as long as you've got the UCAS requirements. But just a reminder as well, we do have what we call a contextual recruitment process that we go through as well. So if you do have 104 as a minimum, we may be able to consider your application in the context of your personal circumstances. So if that does apply to you, please do contact our service desk, and we are happy to have a chat with you and let you know what you need to do in order to get through the recruitment process, the initial registration piece.
Right, so staying with you, Zoe, for a minute, when does the recruitment process start? So when can people apply? When does it end? And how do you have to be a certain age to be able to apply for the apprenticeship?
Well, you need to have obviously completed A levels or equivalent. So what's that, 17, 18? So if you are slightly younger at the moment, hopefully this is something you can aspire to apply for next year, I hope. But in terms of applications, the programme is open now and it closes at the end of March. So again, we will share a copy of these slides with you. So you'll have the QR code, which will take you straight through to our website where you can find out more information, as well as the link to apply for the programme. So we'll share that with you all.
Just to
Okay,
chip
great.
in there, if you have left school and it was a year or so ago and you've done something else, or you're 23 and you haven't got a degree, you can still apply for the school leaver scheme. You don't have to be a fresh school leaver. So I just want to reiterate that.
So the first part of the question will be to probably Gemma, Leo, and Megan. What did you put in your application form that you think that made you stand out? And the second part of the question is probably to Zoe, who looks at the applications and go, what do you look for? What do you look for in those applications that are stand out? Maybe Leo and Megan go first on this, because we haven't heard from you.
They're a bit fresher than me.
Well, no, that you've just been on, so.
I personally would say what I thought was most stand out in my application was I had done this sort of like after school club called the Sea Cadet Corps, and I felt like all the experiences I gained there were really valuable for me to apply. It's like they gave me some amazing opportunities. Like, for instance, I'm not sure how many of you know this, but there's this national panel across England, Scotland, Wales and Northern Ireland called the Youth United Foundation panel. And I was one of the, I think it was 10 lucky finalists that almost got selected to sit on the panel and be in front of Parliament to represent the entirety of the Sea Cadet Corps. So I think that gave me a bit of a standout compared to some applicants, because, I mean, who gets to say that, if I'm honest?
I think for me, what made my application stand out would be there was this program that I did in year 12 of sixth form, which was basically teaching / tutoring young people and GCSE students at a nearby high school. So I would essentially for around like 4 to 5 hours, like around 4 hours on a Saturday, go to the high school and essentially tutor GCSE and young people on any sort of subject that they were struggling with. And I think for me, that was really one of my highlights of my application, because it showed that I had those interpersonal skills, those soft skills, which I think is really an underrated part of being a chartered accountant as well. Being a trainee accountant, because you'd want to be able to communicate effectively with other people. And I think building relationships and reports with other young people and GCSE students, it made me more confident in my ability to help them. And it also made them feel as if they could speak to me about the topics that they were struggling with, whether that was in English or maths or science. And yeah, I think that was a really unique part of my application.
Thanks, Leo. I think when it comes to going through the assessment process, it is really key that you do actually look at some of the hints and tips that we provide, because we've provided that guidance there to help you think about how you want to structure your responses to us, thinking about sort of the examples that you can use. So I think what's really clear to point out is that when you are applying and filling in that section, these competency questions are about looking at very specific examples of when you have demonstrated a specific area. So your examples can be from absolutely anything. It could be from something you've done at school. It could be from any work experience you've done, whether that's part-time jobs or maybe you've done some work experience. It could be extracurricular activities like sporting activities, or maybe you're involved in any clubs or societies. So really you're not limited at all to the examples that you use. But what we want to see is details, examples about why you did something, how you approached something, what the outcome was. So do look at the guidance that we provide on our website, because it is there to really help you think about how to structure those responses. But as we sort of mentioned in the presentation, there is no standard NAO trainee that we look for. So what we are looking for, and I think probably the most important thing, is that we are looking for people that are genuinely motivated to join our organisation, and they want to do that work that is going to be for the benefit of the taxpayer, which effectively is going to be yourself as well once you start working. We're looking for people that can exhibit good, team player, teamwork, and being that kind of person that is adaptable. You're ready to take on challenges, maybe work outside of your comfort zone. So let that all come through in the application process, whether it's the application form itself, or it's a telephone interview, or it's the final assessment stage.
So maybe you can just there's a few questions about what level the apprenticeship is at. So maybe you could just tell everyone like what level maybe.
Yeah. So it is a level 4 apprenticeship that we offer. So it's not a degree apprenticeship, so you're not going to be going to university for this. So just want to make that very clear up front. But the benefit of this is that you are still coming out of this with an ACA qualification at the end of it. So if you were to join us in September, 5 years' time, you've qualified as a chartered accountant. You're earning a very nice, tidy, well, it's 55,000 now. Who knows what it'll be in 5 years' time? Hopefully a lot more. But then we've got graduates that have come out of university. They're just about to start their qualification, and they're coming out of it with about £40,000 worth of university debt as well. So, it depends on how you want to look at it, but yeah. So it is a level 4. So just to make that very clear.
I think you actually answered a couple of extra questions there, but so that's great. I'm going to ask Gemma this question. There's loads of acronyms when it comes to accountancy. And actually in this webinar, NAO, ACA, ICAW, there's been a few people asking what's the difference between ACA and ICAW?
So I think what's important to know as well is that ICAW is a membership board that you belong to, that you have to have a basically license to be called a chartered accountant. So anyone could technically be an accountant, but you're only chartered if you're part and a member of an institute, which the ICAW is. There's also multiple accountancy qualifications. So you might hear about ACCA and also CIPFA. They're all acronyms, but I would definitely advise that if you're interested in accountancy, to look up the different types of accountancy qualifications, because they all do slightly different things. So you can get a CIMA, which is one in management accounts, which is very specific. But the ACA is the most wide-ranging qualification. That means you can go into any avenue of work rather than being a bit more specific on what you're studying. I hope that answered that.
Yeah, I think so. There's a good question here. What happens if you fail the ACA at your first attempt? How many extra attempts do you get? Don't know who's going to take that one.
Do you want me to take that?
If you wouldn't mind, I get very confused with the whole retake piece.
So with the ICAW and studying for the ACA, you have 15 exams. At the NAO, there is a resit policy. So you're able to resit each exam once, and you're allowed 6 resits. Now, we are reasonably flexible on the exam policy. And each exam you are allowed to actually take 4 times as part of the ICAW requirements. Once you've sat it 4 times, though, they are your attempts that you're allowed on each exam. So you definitely need to work hard in order to make sure you pass it. You can't just keep resitting and resitting until you pass it. But the pass mark is 55%, which sounds quite low compared to A-levels. I felt like it was almost like, I don't know what grade that would be an equivalent to A-level, but quite low. But it is still quite difficult to achieve that. However, if it gives you any other comfort, the pass rate at the NAO is in the 90 percentile for passes because of the amount of block study leave you get as part of it. So you are allowed resits. You're allowed to sit each exam 4 times, not necessarily at the NAO, because if you failed each exam 3 times, you would probably fail the resit policy. But there is flexibility for personal circumstances. So don't panic if you fail your first attempt. But also, it's not like A-level. You do have to study for it. You can't fluke it, unfortunately. I'm not saying you can fluke for A-levels. I'm just saying you definitely have to study.
Thank you for that, Gemma. Zoe, there's a question here. How do you cater for students that are neurodiverse? Specifically, the question was put by someone who was talking about autism. Do you support them? Do you provide them extra support on the job? What's the policy around that?
Yes, we do. So through the recruitment policy, we do have reasonable adjustments in place. So let us know and we can talk to you about how we can accommodate that through the different stages. And then also, if you do join us, again, we work with our HR business partners to see what adjustments and what support we can put in place to support you. So yeah.
I'm conscious we're 5 minutes over, so I'm just going to ask these last questions to the apprentices and Gemma, and just say, what's the one thing you most like about working at the NAO?
I'll start.
Yeah.
I really love the people that are at the NAO. Everyone is incredibly supportive. It's a really collaborative working environment. I don't know everything, even though I've been there 12 years, and you can speak to people and ask questions to any colleague. There is a hierarchy, but it is not hierarchical. So I can sit next to my director, I can sit next to a first-year trainee or apprentice. We're in an open desk space. It's desk booking, so anyone can sit anywhere, and it makes it a really nice team environment. So I really enjoy that about the NAO.
Yeah, I would second that as well, just jumping in there. I joined straight after lockdown. So I had a very, very bizarre start to my role at the NAO. I was told when I joined, we'll only be in lockdown for a couple of months. We'll be back in the office in June. And it took 18 months before I finally got to see the office for the first time and actually get to meet my colleagues in person. So for 18 months, everything I did was by email, by Teams calls. It was very strange. And it was so nice walking into the office on my first day and realizing that everybody was exactly how they were over Teams and over email. And I love going into the office. I love seeing my colleagues. Tuesdays is the day I tend to go in, and Thursdays, and it's just generally just more chat rather than work. We work very hard when we work from home, though. What about Leo and Megan? What about you?
Yeah, I'd agree with that as well. I think as a trainee, it's that collaborative environment, speaking to other trainees, speaking to those who are assistant auditor 1, assistant auditor 2, AA3s, and just trying to learn from them. And because they're so open and willing to help you with anything, I think it definitely is the people aspect of the NAO that is really beneficial, especially for a trainee, because everything you're learning in audit is through communicating with your lead and your audit manager and just being open with them and asking questions. So yeah, I think I'd have to say I completely agree with Gemma and Zoe on that.
Yeah, I also agree with what everyone else has said. I also love the aspect of there's sort of no fear in going up to someone and going, where am I? Like, what am I doing? I don't know what to do. Can you help me? it's really, everyone's so friendly and so helpful, especially when, you know, you're brand new in a completely different environment than what you're used to being in. It's amazing.
Well, thank you, guys. We're going to probably end on that note. Thank you to all our presenters and thank you to our guests that joined. I hope you found it useful. There's a QR code on screen if you want to go access the NAO website directly. And if you want to follow us on YouTube or Instagram, just search Success at School. We're going to put all our content on there. Nevertheless, we'll share the info with you tomorrow. And yeah, hopefully you'll join us on more webinars, and thank you to the NAO team. Have a really, really nice evening. And if you've got any questions, ping us an email. Thank you, guys.
Thank you very much, everyone.
Thanks
Thanks,
all.
Mitesh.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks.